Have you ever wondered what it would be like if Einstein, Steve Jobs, and your child's brain had a party? Welcome to the Neuroquirky Nexus, where we celebrate the extraordinary minds of our neurodiverse children. Welcome to you amazing parents and caregivers to this podcast. Here we are going to navigate the colorful world of neurodiversity, and we're going to explore holistic, out-of-the-box solutions for children and teens with ADHD, stress, anxiety, and other neuroquirks. Each week we'll dive into practical, brain-based techniques and quirky strategies to help your child thrive. I'm Lori Bloyer, a former veteran teacher turned holistic neurogrowth, learning, and life success coach. As a parent of a neurodiverse child myself, I've spent the last 20 years researching, experimenting, and developing unconventional approaches to support these unique minds. I myself have ADHD diagnosed later in life, and thank goodness, now I understand some of my neuroquirks, and I am going to give you, from my years of teaching in the classroom, my son and myself, several tips, tricks, strategies to help you and your child thrive and create peace at home and joy in your life. So, are you ready? Let's get quirky. Welcome back to another episode of the Neuroquirky Nexus. So glad you're here. Thank you for joining us again. I want to welcome back our parents, grandparents, caregivers, anyone listening. I've felt pulled to do this episode today because I've seen several parents reaching out that are wondering how to manage the intense emotions of their children. So the last two episodes, we have talked about working with defiant children, especially related to ADHD. Today, I wanted to just talk about neurodiverse children and their intense emotions in general, not just defiance, but sadness and other tough emotions. Okay, so welcome back to the Neuroquirky Nexus, and let's go ahead and get quirky. So, emotions. Here we are talking about emotions and intense emotions. They can feel like a whirlwind, leaving you unsure of how to help your child or yourself navigate them. Yes, there are two sides to this coin, our emotions and their emotions. So by understanding why neurodiverse children experience emotions so intensely and equipping yourself with practical strategies, you'll feel more empowered to support your child. And that is what we're going to talk about as we go into our first section. Why do neurodiverse children experience intense emotions? And it has to do with that brain-body connection. Neurodiverse children process emotions differently due to variations in brain structure and function, which I've talked about in earlier episodes. So, for example, in ADHD children, challenges with impulse control and emotional regulation stem from differences in that prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain. This means that emotional reactions can feel big or huge in their world and immediate with little room for pause. And they have a hard time differentiating between what requires a big emotion and what doesn't. So it kind of all feels like it should be a big emotion, the little thing that happened. In autism, sensory sensitivities and difficulties with interpreting social cues can amplify emotional responses. It's a minor change in plans or a loud sound might trigger intense feelings or a fear of frustration. And those two together then also make it very challenging for your child to work with these big emotions. Neurodiverse children often experience sensory input like light, sound, texture, even emotional energy more intensely. I know, for example, my son definitely did. He would pick up on my emotions, my stress, my nervousness about something, and it would definitely play into how he spent the rest of his evening or hours later. And then me being a very emotionally intense person, it would affect me greatly. So I definitely had to look at my own ability to manage my emotions. I had to really work on that because I didn't want them to affect my son so much. And it worked out really well. Once I was able to manage my emotions and he was able to manage his and not be so sensitive to how I was feeling, we were able to really find a nice solution that balanced out our home life and made life much happier. All right. For example, if your kid is going to a birthday party and the balloons are popping and kids are shouting and music is playing and people are running around, it could be the recipe for a meltdown. And those sensory inputs could definitely trigger big feelings as well. Just any kid in a birthday party really could have big feelings, but for a neurodiverse kid, that's extra challenging. There could be also cognitive and social triggers, right? Miscommunications or perceived injustices can feel deeply personal to a neurodiverse child. So when a teacher critiques their work, it could feel like rejection. Being left out of a game might feel like betrayal. And I think my son feels it too. He just hasn't communicated it very well. Communication is one we're working on. But the rejection sensitivity is huge for sure. And then, of course, there could be struggles with just how they regulate in general. They may struggle with emotional regulation, like I talked about earlier. Just being able to regulate your emotions for adults and kids is very important. It's a muscle that develops over time, and these children may need extra support to build that muscle due to delayed development in self-regulatory systems. So what are we going to do? Well, as I've been talking a lot in this podcast, and I actually just finished a book chapter in a book that'll be coming out, I believe, in the new year about reframing education and reframing how we look at the labels given to neurodiverse children and especially children with ADHD. So here we want to shift the narrative, really understanding that there are intense emotions that these children are feeling, and they aren't just challenges, they're part of your child's unique neurodiverse profile. These big feelings often correlate with deep empathy. That's what my son would definitely go through. And I'm sure you've seen that in some of your children. They care profoundly about people and situations, and it affects them. Sometimes they can't differentiate between the emotion and the reality, or their deep emotion and reality. They have a passionate focus. Their emotions drive their creativity and perseverance in many cases. And authenticity, they really express their emotions openly. Open without filters, which is a powerful form of honesty. And remember, we're talking about reframing here. So yes, there are always the other side of the coin, again, to use that. There's the other side as well. But if we really want to reframe, it so helps us move forward and not stay in what we're used to, perhaps, or what's normal for us. We have to start looking at things from a different perspective. We have to be empathetic as well. Maybe not as deeply as our neurodiverse kids, but we need that empathy side as well. So reframing really helps us when we're seeing bad behavior as meltdown, right? It's a bad behavior. So we're trying to think of them as, an example could be calling for help, right? I'm having a meltdown because I can't deal with all of these big emotions in my body right now. Is what your little child is saying. So you might need to ask yourself, what is beneath the surface of this meltdown, right? Of this big emotion? Are they tired? Are they hungry? Did something set them off? Was there a misunderstanding that happened? You have to stop as the adult and think, okay, what happened to trigger this? As we've talked about in previous episodes, I have a trigger tracker that perhaps I will put in the show notes in this episode, just to help you really track when your child is having big feelings and acting out. And then you can work backwards from there. And I'd be happy to help you do that as a neurodiverse learning and life success coach. I would love to help you break it down and figure out what's happening. We've talked a lot about reframing in the other episodes as well. So I'm going to go on to the next one, which I think we really need are these strategies for managing intense emotions. So we really want to validate their feelings, right? It's really important that we don't just pass it off and not acknowledge their feelings. We don't need to go there deep into their feelings with them, but we do need to validate their feelings so we can acknowledge their emotions instead of trying to fix or dismiss them. Some of us get into a fixing mentality. Really important for us not to try to fix them, but just help our child manage them. So instead of saying, you're fine, it's all fine, try, it looks like you really are upset right now. That's okay.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Are you a parent struggling with defiant behavior in a child with ADHD? It can be overwhelming, but there's help. Download our free guide, 10 Essential Strategies for Managing Defiant Kids with ADHD. Inside, you'll find proven techniques to reduce power struggles, build cooperation, and create a calmer home. Ready to make a real change? Get your own copy now and start transforming challenges into opportunities for growth. Download it today at nexus-mastery.com/guidelines. That's nexus-mastery.com/guidelines. The link is also in the show notes. Thank you. Let's get you back to your episode.
We're going to figure this out together, right? And there's a song that my son listens to right now about being anxious and anxiety. And the singer is saying, just don't tell me again to breathe and calm down. That's not helping. So I took that to heart because long ago I used to tell my son with his anxious episodes, just breathe, just calm down. Now I can say it because we've worked so hard on these feelings, but before that it was definitely I had to learn how to work on these feelings and change from just breathe, calm down, or you're fine to let's figure this out together. What's causing this anxious episode? What's causing you to feel upset? Maybe one day I'll have him on as a guest and I can interview him and you can learn a little bit about our story a little more deeply. So validating teaches children that their feelings matter, creating a safe space for expression. That's why we do that, validation. And then you want to teach them, of course, the words. Many children struggle to articulate what they're feeling. So teaching them what their feelings mean is very important. Mood charts help with facial expressions for the little kids. Feeling cards, for the older kids, frustrated, disappointed, overwhelmed. Even those for our teens, they don't necessarily articulate those words. They use more things like, I'm good, or it's all right, or I'm fine, or, So we need to get them to use those words, frustrated, disappointed, overwhelmed. And they can practice, right? You can even try when it's not the heat of the moment. Try to practice. I'm feeling whatever emotion because whatever situation. And that's a great way for them to practice when they're not triggered. Our next one that we've talked about before is sensory tools. One of them, weighted blankets. I love mine. My son loves his. Just that feeling of weight really helps children regulate their bodies. And you could get weighted vests for tests at school. And that's a wonderful sensory tool to help regulate their bodies. Noise canceling headphones for loud spaces. Those are also amazing. No, they're not earbuds. They're larger that go over your ears. Noise canceling headphones that go over the ears that don't have any electronics associated with them. They just help drown out some noise. But you can still hear what's going on around you, but not as loud. And of course, fidget toys. I love the strips that you put on your desk and you can feel like Velcro, but now people have made these strips that you put on your desk or on your computer or on your purse, on your keys, that you can rub for that sensory fidget to also help channel your energy or the kiddo's energy. But it works for parents too. And then, of course, routine. Yes, routine is really important. Please, please, please keep routine in your family. It provides a sense of security and it reduces that anxiety of what are we doing next and why are we doing this and how come we're shifting? And their brains really don't need that extra layer of stress. So the more you can be predictable, the more peace you'll have in your family. So really creating those visual schedules, pictures for the younger kids, for the older kids, maybe setting up reminders or alarms in their phones. I know a lot of my teenage students would do that as well. And then always, always that warning. In 5 minutes, we're leaving. Okay. In 10 minutes, you need to have this room clean. Something, or not that big, right? We talked about in 10 minutes, you need to have all of your socks picked up in your room. Right? We talked about the small chunks. But predictable schedules, and you can vary within. I have a small little mini course I did that talks about one of those secret skills. Oops, I guess I'm giving it away. Is to have routines, but vary it. So you can say like, okay, we're going to go exercise now from this time to this time. Would you like to ride your bike or jump on the trampoline or name another activity you want to do? So you can change it up within the structure. So that's also a good tip, trick, secret in my little mini course. If you want to get that, let me know. The next idea is emotion toolkits. In the toolkit, a little toolbox could be lots of fun things like a stress ball, comforting images, any type of fidget tools. Then, of course, there could be bubbles for breathing exercises. Boy, you name it, whatever special thing can go inside that toolkit. For teens, you could have special lighting. They could listen to special music, have a special space in the house or in their room that they go to, that's their calm down corner or their regulation corner, whatever you want to call it for your child. And they should actually probably name it to help them. So that's another strategy. But now we get to move on to parents. Yay. Remember I told you it's two-sided, right? One side for the kids, one side for the parents. So we need to really work on parents' regulation, right? Co-regulation. Children often match our emotional state, especially these deeply feeling children. So if you stay calm, if you model regulation for them, that will help them so much. And so you need to practice calming yourself. You might need to turn around, take a deep breath, and then come back to it. You might need to quickly say to yourself, I can handle this. I am my child's anchor. I can do this. I can be calm even through this storm. You need to model that. And then you can help your child so much better. And then you get rid of that cycle, right? I don't think any of us like to be in the cycle of you're upset, they're upset, you're upset, they're upset. Nobody likes that cycle. So let's just stop it with you, right? Breathing, modeling, positive affirmations to yourself. And then try to reframe your child's behavior, as I've mentioned before. Those meltdowns. What is this behavior trying to communicate? Why is this child melting down? Why is this child acting out? Why are they being defiant? Why are they pulling away from me? What's happening to have this behavior occur, right? So reframe it. Don't just say, oh, they're bad, they're horrible, I can't take it. Try to be an investigator, right? Be your own investigator of your child's behavior. And practice patience and self-compassion, please. Yes, us parents get frustrated. But take a moment to just breathe. Remember how special this human being is in your life. Step back if you have to even walk away and go into your own quiet corner or your own calming place. And remind yourself that you love this child with all of your heart, but it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but both of you have to work on yourselves. And if you need to, get support. Get support from me, from counselors, from support groups, other professionals. So I hope that helps recharge and gain new perspectives. Okay, let's talk about the long-term growth tools. Tools for that long-term growth. Mindfulness for the family. Engage in daily mindfulness practices like breathing, meditation, gratitude. On the way to school, I always talk with my son about gratitude, or my students or my coachees. I would talk about gratitude. What are you grateful for? Just saying that helps elevate your mood greatly. And you can journal that. You can make it a game, make it a fun activity. One game I play is you can't say the same thing you said last time. So every day has to be a different gratitude, right? We try for 3, and every day has to be a new one. Role playing for emotional scenarios. I've talked about this before. I love role playing. Yeah, you can practice challenging situations during calm moments. For example, what could we do if a classmate says something mean? What would you do? You could role play, okay, we're at the grocery store and I'm the child, I'm going to have a meltdown, and you're the adult. How are you going to handle it? What's it like for you? So practicing empathy role play is also a great way to switch it around with your teen. Just listening to them, right? Listening, and you don't have to necessarily role play, but listen to them and hearing how they are experiencing life and something that's interesting to them. We could also teach problem-solving skills. Use that stop, think, choose framework. So where you stop, take a deep breath, think about what's happening, and choose what you're going to do next. I definitely would model that for your children. You need to do that as a parent first to help yourself. But the stop, think, choose framework is a nice one. I also have another one in my little mini course. If you want to grab that, I can help you out with some more suggestions in my little mini course. So 5 takeaways. I want to leave you with 5 takeaways at our fun activity, as we always end with our activities. Intense emotions are not just challenges, they're opportunities for connection, growth, and understanding. By validating your child's emotions, creating calming routines, and practicing regulation yourself, you can help your child feel seen and supported. And isn't that what we all want? To feel seen and supported and loved. Progress, though, happens in small, meaningful steps. So celebrate each victory along the way. Each victory. Remember to always look at the positive as well when something good happens. As we've mentioned, if your child is constantly hearing no, 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 or you're bad, 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 that's what they're going to hear, right? That's who they're defining themselves as, their identity. So try to really give the identity of, oh, we're amazing people. We just kind of mess up sometimes. So give yourself that grace and your child. So we're going to do our fun activity, our quirky activity, which is to be a detective. So I want you guys to be emotion detectives. And I want you to tell your child that they're going on a secret mission to solve the big case of big feelings. And they'll become emotion detectives, solving the mystery of what feelings are showing up, why they're here, and what they need to do next. So you'll need for this mission a simple little emotion detective kit, which is a small notebook for taking emotion clues. You could get a magnifying glass, real or imaginary, and you get bonus points for silliness, stickers or stamps for celebrating, and then you're going to observe clues that help uncover the feelings. So what is your body telling you? My fists are tight, or my tummy feels funny. What happened just before you started feeling this way? What do you think your feeling is trying to tell you? And you can write or draw clues in the notebook and then decode the feeling. using an emotion chart or feelings wheel to help identify what emotion you've uncovered. So you could practice naming it out loud. Oh, I think this feeling is frustration. Obviously, this is for younger kids. So for the older kids, as I've always said, just talk and listen. Listen, spend quality time off of tech, talk. Be a detective that way. Just be a detective by listening, active listening, and talking and spending quality time and giving them those words. Okay, so once you have your feeling named in the game with the younger kids, we're back to the younger kids, brainstorm ways to help solve the case. Ask, okay, so you're feeling that way. Do you think you need a break? Do you need a hug, or would deep breathing help? Should we talk about it together? And then celebrate the detective work. Once the feeling has been identified and an action has been taken, celebrate that positive, that giving back the yeses that we've spent so many times saying no's, right? Giving back to yeses. And then give them a sticker or a badge or something fun, an ice cream, whatever works for your family. It really is a great activity to reframe emotional regulation as playful, curious experience. Also for you too, you're going to learn a lot about your children, and teaches them that their emotions are solvable mysteries, not scary monsters. And you get a bond with your child as their detective sidekick. So remember, do this activity and tag hashtag NeuroNexus to share any of your experiences in these quirky activities I give you. Remember that parenting a neurodiverse child comes with unique challenges, and so welcome to the ride. But it also comes with incredible opportunities to nurture resilience and connection. So together, let's embrace the quirks, navigate the emotions, and celebrate the growth. All right, dear families, please join us in the Neuroquirky Nexus Facebook group if you haven't already, where we discuss these strategies, where I have lives. I go live every Monday evenings. We talk about these strategies from the podcasts. And if you wouldn't mind sharing this episode with someone who needs to hear it, I'd love to help others. That's my mission, to help children and be a service to families. So please share it with those in need. Stay tuned for next week, where we're going to talk about stress and emotions and structure and what to do over the holiday season coming up. So lots of holidays coming up. And so we're going to start talking about how to manage the holidays with our neuroquirky children. Thank you again so much. I appreciate you all. Follow, whatever you can do to help this podcast grow and reach others. This is Lori Bloyer reminding you that progress is a journey, not a destination. And as always, keep it quirky.
Thank you for listening to Neuroquirky Nexus. We are so glad you took the time to join us today. I know time is precious, and we are so glad you're here. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Please don't forget to post your activity using hashtag NeuroNexus. That's NeuroNexus. And of course, all links are in the show notes. And I just really hope you enjoyed it. So if you did, please like and subscribe and share this with a friend. I think this is really good for families that are new to their child being diagnosed with ADHD. And I believe that the tips and tricks and resources I'll be sharing will be very helpful for all families, but especially new families. And finally, I am creating a workshop coming up to help families with ADHD finding and using a holistic, natural approach in support of a book chapter that I'm writing and articles and magazines that are coming out. But my workshop, I'm so excited about because I can work with you all one-on-one. If you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you again. And remember, let's keep it quirky. See you next time.